You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Hello, Colts fans, and welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. My name is Joe Hopkins, joined by Mike Chappell, and we're here today to discuss the Colts' overtime win in Denver. It was not pretty, but a win is a win is a win. We're going to recap this defensive battle, discuss takeaways from the game, and check in on the AFC South division race. Before we get started, Mike, how are you doing? How much sleep did you get last night? I'll ask you that.
Probably about 5 hours. I got to bed about 3:30, and I didn't set my alarm, and I woke up at 8:30. My body was just ready to go, so a little fuzzy, but we'll soldier through.
That's right. Well, Mike, definitely getting the post-game stories up very late after this overtime contest. You were better than a lot of the Denver fans who left before overtime even started.
How strange was that?
It's a work day, Mike. They got to get up and they got stuff to do the next morning.
But you'd already, gone through 4 quarters of it. I mean, it's a 10-minute overtime, so just gut it out. But I tell you, that shows you the angst in Denver, to where they're fed up with the coach, they're fed up with the quarterback that they just paid $250 million for. Good luck out in Denver.
Yeah, they're having a tough time. No matter how tough things got in Indy, I know Colts Nation would never. We'd stick around through the end. But let's go ahead.
Sure, we would.
Let's go ahead and get to this game here. The 1-2-1 Colts visiting the 2-2 Denver Broncos for a Week 5 Thursday night matchup. Both teams coming off division losses heading into this game. Colts without some significant players, including running back Jonathan Taylor, star linebacker Shaq Leonard, safety Julian Blackmon, and defensive lineman Tyquan Lewis. And then they would lose their other running back, Nyheim Hines, on the first drive of the game. 3rd and 7, Ryan dumps the ball off to Hines, who spins inside, just trying to make a move to pick up the first down. He gets blown up after the play. Couldn't even stand on his own wobbly legs. Mike, a really scary moment for Nyheim Hines.
We've seen this 2 or 3 times this year with Tua. Remember where you get the head hits the ground and the player gets up, is helped up, and then he just wobbles. And if not for a couple of his offensive linemen, he would have gone down. He concussion. He's in protocol. Hey, we got just a quick update since we're on it. Talked to Frank Reich today, and he said that he talked to Nyheim at halftime. Nyheim wanted to play. He wanted to go back at the game. He said he felt fine. He said he apologized for getting the concussion. He said, I've been hit a lot harder during that in my career, but that was never going to happen. He's in protocol, but it just shows you the kind of player and competitor that Nyheim Hines is.
Yeah, and this not only a scary moment for Hines, concussions, always a concerning thing to deal with, especially when you get the visual of a player not being able to stand up, legs giving out on him, got the baby giraffe legs out there. But this had to have a big impact on the Colts' offensive game plan. They went to Hines for the first 3 plays of the game. I'm sure he was going to carry a large load for this team. And then just like that, no Jonathan Taylor, no Nyheim Hines, and the Colts had to carry on with their backup running backs. All right, after the 3-and-out, Matt Hawk's punt travels just 36 yards, giving Denver good field position. The drive starts at the Broncos' 36, and Russell Wilson and company work their way down the field. But after a 1st and 10 at the Colts' 13, Indy clamps down and forces a field goal. It's 3-0 early. All right, with no Hines or Taylor, the Colts turn to Deion Jackson, and he was ready. First play of that next drive, Jackson takes a Matt Ryan pass and picks up 21 yards. Next play, he gains 5 yards on the ground, and the Colts are in Broncos territory. But on 2nd down, the defensive tackle beats Ryan Kelly, gets to Matty Ice, killing the drive. Mike, I'm sure Matt Ryan is going to need a nice bath after this one. It was the first of 6 sacks on the night. He faced constant pressure with a reshuffled offensive line. They put the 3rd-round rookie Bernard Ryman at left tackle. They moved Matt Pryor from left tackle to right tackle. And the $70 million man, Braden Smith, moves from right tackle to right guard. I thought it was an interesting choice to completely reshuffle the offensive line on a short week. What about you, Mike?
We saw this snippets of this during training camp of 2 or 3 days where they went with this configuration. And I guess what it showed you is they know the offensive line is broken and they're trying to fix it somehow. They didn't practice it leading up to the game. They had a walkthrough. So normally when you'd make these moves, maybe this week, to where you've got a little extra time and a full week to make the change and get used to it. But it's obvious they said, this isn't working. Let's try something. Maybe they decided that Braden Smith is not playing well at right tackle. It seems to me like it would have made more sense to leave Braden at right tackle and put Pryor at right guard. But I'm one of those guys that was lobbying, I guess, for Bernhard Raimann to play, and because the idea that, hey, let the kid make mistakes on the fly, and he made some mistakes. What was it? 4 penalties, 1 declined, 3 holding, and 1 declined. So but that's where they are, and to think that they're in Game 5 and they don't trust their offensive line, it's kind of scary.
It's very scary, and Raimann would have a tough game in this one. We'll see what combination they roll out there next game. Denver's drive after the punt starts at the 14-yard line, and it ends at the 10 after Yannick Ngakoue gets to Wilson on 3rd and 10 for his second sack of the season. Broncos punt, fair caught by Isaiah Rodgers at Indy's 40. But the Colts can't take advantage of the field position and go 3 and out. Guess what? The Broncos struggling as well. They matched them with another 3 and out of their own. Indy now on their 4th drive, and it's still just the first quarter of the ball game. A couple Philip Lindsay runs sets up a 3rd and 2 at their 40. And then Ryan finds a rookie Jelani Woods for 12 yards and a first down. But wait a minute, a holding call on Raimann brings it back. And on 3rd and 12, Matt Pryor completely whiffs on Bradley Chubb, who takes down Ryan. Second sack on Ryan, and it comes after the second holding call on Raimann. His first penalty was declined. The Colts at this point have just 1 first down on 4 drives. And between both teams, it was the 4th consecutive 3 and out. Mike, this was an ugly offensive affair.
It's just, and again, we'll be beating the dead Colts on this, but it's the offensive line. These negative plays are just putting them behind the 8 ball. It's hard enough to sustain drives, but holding penalties and sacks and minus rushes. And they had a couple of drop passes, I thought. Drop passes, contested, passes, whatever you want to call it. But it was a punt fest and a field goal fest. And Pat McAfee had to love it, but, it was just an eyesore of a game offensively. And these are one of those games, like I wrote about, you just have to find a way, and we'll get to it. They somehow found a way.
They sure did. But right now, it's the second quarter. Denver's drive starts at their 34, and Wilson's picking his way down the field. A false start puts him in a 1st and 15 at Indy's 36. The Colts would hold and force another field goal. McManus is good from 44 yards out, and the Broncos extend their lead to 6. Now it's time for the Colts offense to wake up. Matt Ryan hits Michael Pittman Jr. for 15 yards on 3rd and 3. A couple plays later, Raimann puts him in a 2nd 18 after another holding call. But the play after, Alec Pierce makes a catch streaking across the field. He has the ball punched out from behind. It rolls forward and right to Paris Campbell. Lucky bounce for the Colts to not only recover the ball, but the extra yardage actually gave them a first down on the play. 2 plays later now, over the next 2 plays, the Colts gained 19 yards on a couple Philip Lindsay rushes. 1st and 10 at Denver's 24. Deion Jackson stuffed for no gain. 2nd down. Ryan has time in the pocket, scanning, throws right to the safety. Denver returns the interception to the 38-yard line. Ryan clearly did not even see the defensive back, who was just reading his eyes on that play. Turnover takes potential points off of the board. Broncos now with a chance to go up 2 scores, which the way this game has gone would make it feel like it's pretty much putting the game away. But a ticky-tack pass interference call on Rodney McLeod gives Denver a first down at Indy's 48. But a couple plays later, the Broncos get called for a holding of their own, and the Colts D would force another punt. 3:48 to go in the half. The Colts drive starts at their 15. First play, Ryan goes to Pittman, 10 yards. A few plays later, Colts face 3rd and 8. Ryan completes it to Pierce, who makes a grab at the sticks, is pushed back. The referee originally marked it a yard short. Colts challenge, and it's overturned. Big call keeps the drive alive. Lindsey runs for 7 and a first down, and we hit the 2-minute warning. Second down, Bernhard Raimann again called for a false start, backing them up 5 yards. But Ryan would find Pittman for 19 yards, Colts in Denver territory. A couple incompletions sets up a 3rd and 10 now. Ryan drops back, has time, finds Doolin for 18. Next play, he connects with Pittman for 11. The Colts are 15 yards away from the end zone with 49 seconds in the half. First down, Raimann is whooped by Chubb, and Quentin Nelson, you never see this, he's blown up by a blitzing linebacker, knocked to the ground. Matt Ryan tries to spin out of the pocket, but is chased down by that linebacker, and, of course, he fumbles, but it's recovered by the Colts. A loss of 17 sets up 2nd and 28. After a timeout, the Colts try to recover from the sack, but they can't handle a stunt. A rusher gets right in Ryan's face, and he just has to take another sack. A loss of 10 more. Colts go from a first down at the 15 to 3rd down at the 43. And Indy takes their last time out. Need some yards here for the field goal. Ryan completes to Pierce, who's pushed out of bounds to stop the clock at the 33, and that will set up a 52-yard Chase McLaughlin field goal, and it's right down the middle. His longest field goal of the year gets the Colts on the board, 6-3 at the half. Mike, as poor as the Colts played, getting points before the half was huge.
Yeah, because Denver gets the ball to start the second half. So it's one of those where you're looking and you're hanging around, and Denver's doing nothing to put you away. You just had a feeling if the defense doesn't keep them out of the end zone, if Denver scores a touchdown, the game's probably over. Because like you mentioned, the offense just isn't showing signs that it can get there. So points at the end of the half were huge. And game ball to Chase McLaughlin, I mean, holy smokes. 4 field goals and 48, 51, and 53, whatever it was, 52. So had he not been, I tweeted out, it reminded me of the 15-6 win by the Colts in Baltimore in the playoffs in 06. You know, not the same level of play, but when things aren't going well, the kick, you've got to have your kicker converting, and that's what happened.
Absolutely. I will note the good news on the drive is, of course, the Colts scored. The bad news, Ryan Kelly was injured during that 2-minute drill. He would leave the game with a hip injury and not return, putting Danny Pinter in at center. Pinter, of course, started the season at right guard, has been benched the last couple of the games. Colts now have just one offensive lineman in his original spot, and that's Quentin Nelson at left guard. But we're moving on to the third quarter, 6-3. Denver gets the ball to start the half. After a quick first down, DeForest Buckner gets to Wilson on 2nd and 10 and knocks the ball out. Wilson's able to jump back onto it, and then the Broncos are stopped on 3rd and long and have to punt it away. Really a good game from Buckner, who'd been quiet at times this season. The Colts with a chance now to take the lead. They have a 3rd and 3 at their 41. Ryan hangs in the pocket with bodies around him, throws a pass over the middle as he's getting hit, and somehow Pierce hauls it in with the defender all over him. The Ryan to Pierce connection really seems to be heating up the last couple of games. Colts get a first down on the next play with a 13-yard Deion Jackson run, setting them up at Denver's 31. But they would fail to gain another yard. 3rd and 11, Ryan just has to throw it away, setting up a second consecutive 50-plus yard field goal for McLaughlin. This one from 51, and this one right down the middle. McLaughlin's leg ties things up at 6. Mike, we just talked about him, but let's talk about it again because the Colts have to be happy with their decision to move on from Blankenship and bring in McLaughlin.
If I'm not mistaken, McLaughlin's now 9 of 11 on 50-yarders in his career. Now, 40 to 49 we've talked about, not so good. But like Frank Reich mentioned, he just right down the middle. There wasn't any, body, leaning, body English and all that kind of stuff. So, again, you hate to have your star of the game be your field goal kicker offensively, but you've got to have, just think where they'd be if their previous kicker knocks down a 42-yarder in overtime at Houston. So whenever it's like this and the offense is really having issues, fits and starts, you got to have your field goal kicker be able to clean up the mess.
And he sure was in this game. Broncos now looking to answer. Wilson goes deep on 2nd and 8. Safety Rodney Thomas is right there, but it gets taken out by the referee. Cortland Sutton comes down with it for a gain of 51. Broncos ball at Indy's 22. I was ripping my hair out during this play. Mike, have you ever seen an official so blatantly interfere with a play?
Normally, when you see this, it's like he gets in the way of a linebacker close to the line of scrimmage where there's more congestion. But that was a nice pick job by him because I don't know if Rodney Thomas would have intercepted it. He certainly would have knocked it down. And he was just taken out by it. And I thought, here we go. What things can go wrong now? And fortunately, they recovered from it.
Yeah, big break from the Broncos, but fair or not, the Colts have to move on. Denver gets to the 9 after a first down on the ground, but then that Indy defense said enough of this. Melvin Gordon stuffed for a 1-yard loss on first down. Second down, Ngakoue and Buckner converge on Wilson for the sack. 3rd and goal now from the 16. Wilson can't find any wide receivers and just throws it out of the back of the end zone. That brings up a 34-yard field goal attempt, and it's swatted down by Big Grover Stewart. Denver comes away with nothing, and the Colts take over at the 19. Indy now looking to score on a 3rd consecutive drive. Screen pass to Deion Jackson on 2nd and 10 loses 5 yards. On 3rd and 15, Matt Ryan tries to force it into Pittman, throws it right to the safety again for his 2nd interception of the game. After a great defensive stop by the Colts, the offense just gives the ball right back. So deflating. Mike, Matt Ryan just flat out doesn't see the safety for both of his interceptions in this game. A 15-year veteran has to see the field better than that.
Yeah, and in both cases, it's a busy pocket, but he has time, and it's just kind of hard it's one of those where you want to stop the game and say, okay, Matt, walk us through what did you see or what did you not see? And it's worth noting he's now got 7 interceptions. That's how many Carson Wentz had last year. So, again, he's showing great comeback ability, in 4 of these games. But in a lot of cases, he's putting him in those positions to come back from. He's got to clean this up. They're not, especially the way the rest of the offense isn't working. Their quarterback can't keep sabotaging drives with crazy interceptions.
Yeah, and that's a good point. He had time to throw on both of his picks. It's almost like, oh, wow, the offensive line is actually giving me time here. I got to make something happen with it. And he just forces something that's not there. Regardless, Broncos got the ball at Indy's 27. 2nd and 10. Wilson hits the tight end down the seam for the touchdown. Or is it, wait a minute, Kenny Moore got his hand in there to knock it away at the very last moment. A tremendous play by Kenny Moore to save the touchdown. Moore had a rough start to the season, really played great on Thursday. And like I said, with his one hand alone, saved a score right there. Wilson's 3rd down pass is too far for Jerry Jeudy, and the Broncos have to kick. This field goal is good from 45 yards, and it's 9-6 Denver. Colts offense looking to bounce back. 3rd and 6, Pittman has a first down catch knocked out of his hands, and the Colts go 3 and out. Matt Hawk has to punt again, and it's fair caught by Denver at the 22. Broncos get into Colts territory with a 34-yard screen pass to running back Mike Boone. On 3rd and 13 from the 35, Wilson can't find anyone, gets pressured, and just throws it up for the grabs. The rookie safety, Rodney Thomas, is right there for an easy interception, and he looks like he might go all the way.
What in the heck was Russell Wilson doing on that play?
Yeah.
I have no...
As bad as the Matt Ryan interceptions were, this one was equally bad. It was like the pressure was coming, and he just tossed it out there, hoping that a miracle would happen, really. Probably one of the easier interceptions Rodney Thomas is ever going to have in his career.
If all you saw were the last, 4 seconds of the play, you would have thought it was a punt. That's how much there was no one else around him, and he was able to just kind of gather him. So that's got to be one where he's thinking, get here so I can catch it. But, Wilson was backpedaling, and somebody was in his face. I don't remember who it was. But you just can't make these are a pair of Super Bowl quarterbacks, and Pro Bowl quarterbacks, and they're just throwing the ball all over the yard, which is hard to understand.
Yeah, and in a tight, low-scoring defensive battle, the safety Thomas looks like for a moment he might go all the way with this one, but the turf monster reaches up and gets him. He stumbles down at the 39. And oh no, Kwity Paye is down and grabbing his lower leg. Cart comes out for Paye, never a good sign. Turned it out to be an ankle injury after it looked like it may have been an Achilles originally. He's kind of grabbing the lower back of his, I believe, right leg. We'll get to injuries after the game recap here, but still waiting on full diagnosis for Paye. Colts down 3. It's early in the fourth quarter. A 12-yard Jackson run on first down gets them across the 50. Lindsey then rushes for 7 more, but a holding call and Danny Pinter brings it back. Very next play, Denver called for unnecessary roughness, first down at Denver's 38. Colts go nowhere on a couple Jackson runs. On 3rd and 10, Ryan is sacked by Baron Browning, who just went right around Pryor. The sack knocks him back out of range for a potential field goal. Colts punt, touchback, net punt of just 25 yards. But the Colts wreck the Broncos' drive with a sack of their own. 2nd and 3, Wilson is blitzed by McLeod. He slips out of that hit, but then is brought down by Ngakoue and Dio Odangbo. Denver then stops short on 3rd and 10, and Colts force another punt. Over 8 minutes to go in the game now. Colts down 3. Drive starts at their 29. But the offense continues to struggle. Braden Smith called for an ineligible man down the field on 2nd and 7, and the Colts can't recover from the penalty. They have to punt for the 7th time in this game, and it's their 5th 3-and-out, not counting the interception, which technically happened on the 3rd play. But we'll just move on from that. Denver then starts at their 15 after the punt. Suddenly, the Broncos discovered how to run the ball. With the Colts defense gassed, Denver gains 40 yards on 4 consecutive runs. A couple plays later, the Colts start using timeouts as clock is becoming a factor with about 3 minutes to go. 3rd and 8 at Indy's 35. Wilson connects with Cortland Sutton for 7 yards. Denver goes for it on 4th and 1, and Wilson finds his tight end for 9 yards over the middle. First down at the 19. The Colts defense holds Denver to a short gain to set up 3rd and 4. Wilson's pass for Judy is then intercepted in the end zone by Stephon Gilmore. The Colts get the ball back, down 3. Mike, the defense was terrific all game, and they gave the offense every opportunity to come back and win this game.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the Denver media is really questioning play calling by Denver, by Hackett, and execution by Wilson. It's 9-6, and you're easy field goal range to make it, I want to say a 2-possession game, but a 2-field-goal game. And you've got to feel that, man, if they can make it 12-6, the Colts may not come back from that. But even if you're not going to be overly aggressive and go to the end zone, take something underneath it and keep the drive going. But just a great play by Gilmore. It's what you got him for. It's like Frank said, big-time players make big-time plays when it matters. That was huge. That was just they could have sealed the game in my mind, either with a field goal and certainly with a touchdown.
Yeah, Gilmore earned every penny of his contract in this game. He was terrific. Colts still down just 3. 2 minutes and 13 seconds to go. No timeouts. Drive starts at the 20. Ryan trying to get something going. He's hit as he throws. The ball flutters right to a Bronco, but somehow Alec Pierce rips it away from his grasp. It's 11-yard gain. Still wondering how Pierce came away with that catch. We hit the 2-minute warning. Next play, Denver brings a blitz, and Bradley Chubb ends up being blocked by Kylan Granson and Deion Jackson. And as you could have guessed, that did not turn out well for the Colts. Chubb gets to Ryan as he throws, and you guessed again, Ryan fumbles the ball. This time, Ryan is able to dive back onto it. Clock is still ticking, and it's a 6-yard loss. Next play, defender in Ryan's face as he throws. Ball flutters to a wide-open Pierce, 17-yard gain. Ryan then finds Campbell for 10 yards. Timeout Denver, injured player. After a couple short gains, the Colts run Jackson up the middle for 17. Hurry to the line. Ryan then dumps the ball off to Jackson, who breaks a couple tackles for 9 yards. Ryan spikes the ball to stop the clock. With 13 seconds left, Colts are at the Denver 8. But a delay of game penalty after the spike backs them up 5 yards. Ryan thought the play clock should have been reset as Denver was dealing with another injured player. The refs disagreed. It's now 3rd down. The Colts have one last chance to go for a game winner in the end zone. Nothing doing. Matt Ryan's pass falls incomplete. McLaughlin up to send the game to overtime from 31 yards out. And it's good. The game that just wouldn't die. We have an extra quarter in Mile High. Colts win the all-important coin toss, and they have a chance to win the game right now with a touchdown. 16-yard catch and run by Granson gets things moving. Then Jackson up the middle for 9. They toss it out to Campbell, who makes a man miss and picks up 12 more. Ball at Denver's 37. A couple plays later, Matt Ryan can't find anyone open on 3rd and 4. He scrambles up the middle for a 1-yard gain. It's 4th and 3 for them from the 30, and the Colts turn to McLaughlin once again. This one from 48 yards out to give the Colts a first lead of the game, and he splits the uprights for a 4th time. Colts on top, 12-9. That Indianapolis defense needs one more stop to win the game. But a screen pass to Melvin Gordon gains 24 yards. Then a play-action pass to wide-open Jerry Jeudy picks up 37 more. And with 2 plays, Denver has reached the Colts 14. First down, Colts hold Gordon to 3 yards. Second down, Gordon has a hole up the middle but is upended by Rodney McLeod. It's now 3rd and 2. Colts stuff Gordon on 3rd down for a 1-yard gain. We have 4th and 1. With 2 minutes and 38 seconds left in overtime, do the Broncos kick a field goal and play for the tie or go for it? They go for it and go for the win. Wilson in the shotgun. He's going to Sutton all the way, forces the ball to him in the middle of the field, and it's knocked away by Stephon Gilmore. Colts win the game. Final score 12-9. After the game, Gilmore said Wilson kept testing him, so he had to make him pay. Great game by the veteran corner. Great game by the defense. Great game by Chase McLaughlin. Bad game for the offense. Per NFL stats and info, Colts became the 2nd team in the Super Bowl era to win a game where they scored 0 touchdowns, threw multiple interceptions, and were sacked at least 6 times. Mike, you noted on Twitter that this is the 12th time the Colts have won without a touchdown. Last time was 2006, the divisional round against the Baltimore Ravens. The Colts now reach 500 with a 2-2-1 record. Never mind that they've scored just 69 points and have allowed 94 through 5 games. Mike, I think I could guess, but who's your MVP of this game?
You know, I would almost want to split it between McLaughlin, Gilmore, and Buckner. Buckner had a great game. 8 tackles, 2 sacks, batted the ball down, forced a fumble. And after the game, Reich mentioned, it was mentioned how Buck's playing with that apparatus on his left elbow. He said it's a significant injury, but it's one that with the brace he can play with. And, we've been waiting for the defense, somebody make a play. Against Kansas City, it was Gilmore tipping the ball that McLeod intercepted. And this one, it's Gilmore twice in the end zone. And when your offense isn't working, the kicker has to kick. So it has to kick successfully. We've had kickers kick not so well. So I'd kind of stretch it to 3 people and feel good about that.
That's a bit of a cop out, but I'll give it to you. If I had to pick one player, Gilmore's right up there. Buckner had a great game, but I got to give it to McLaughlin. He's the guy who scored all the points, 4 for 4 on the field goals. They were all high pressure situations or from 50 plus, especially when the kicker position is one where confidence has been lacking with this team for several years now. McLaughlin really stepped up. And if I'm not mistaken, he did get the game ball, correct?
That's what Frank's mentioned in his postgame. They may have given out more than one, but McLaughlin certainly got a game ball.
McLaughlin was terrific. Before we get to takeaways here, let's talk about injuries. Of course, Hines with the concussion, we'll have to see how long that keeps him out. It's encouraging that he seemed to be feeling all right during halftime. He has 10 days to rest up. Ryan Kelly with the hip, and then Kwity Paye with the ankle. He was carted off. Mike, were there any other injuries that I missed, / do we have any updates on Kelly and Paye?
Ashton Doolin left the game late with a foot injury. The only update on Kwity Paye, and normally when you see a guy carted off, you're thinking season-ending whatever. Again, an Achilles kind of popped in my mind too. I text with someone at the complex, and they don't think it's season-ending. It's an ankle. I know that Ian Rappaport, I think, put out there that it's a high ankle sprain, which, 3, 4, 5 weeks it can be. I guess that wouldn't rule out IR, which is 4 games. It gives him a chance to really rest. And again, Nyheim Hines, he will benefit from the extra time. And, there's, I say, a decent chance he plays next game against Jacksonville. These head injuries, they're like snowflakes. No two are alike. And guys react differently. This is the Colts. Is it the 4th or 5th concussion this year already? I mean, yeah. Pierce and Tyquan Lewis and Shaq and maybe 4. So we'll see. And it really struck me how Frank was talking about Hines, apologizing. And he wanted to play, and the Colts said, no, you're not going to play. So that was never going to happen. But I wouldn't discount Hines playing against the Jaguars.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, personally, if it was up to me, anyone who got a concussion should automatically be ruled out the next game. That's obviously not how the NFL works. We'll see if Hines is able to get back on the field, and the Colts might need him because there's no guarantee Jonathan Taylor's going to be back for the next game. I know it kind of made it sound like he might play this week, but ankle injury, I mean, you don't know. You were about to say something, Mike?
Yeah, Zach Kiefer, the Athletic, he just asked Frank quickly after the game last night, and they sort of expect JT to play next game. I don't know how close he was to playing against Denver. I mean, he was in a boot on Tuesday, and they ruled him out, early. So, but, again, given time to rest, and what you have to understand, though, is it's a running back, and he makes his living with his legs. So we'll see, but I wouldn't rule out either Hines or JT for the next game.
Yeah, I suppose regardless, it was encouraging seeing Deion Jackson play actually pretty well. Lindsey had some nice plays out there too. Any update on Kelly?
No. He went to the locker room early, and then he was on the sideline over the second half. So no, we don't know and won't know until next week. And the only bright spot about that is, once again, Danny Pinner came in and played pretty well. It appears he's a much better center than he is a guard. And if Kelly's not 100%, they stick with Penner. Remember last year when Kelly was out, Penner played well in the starting lineup. So that's a position I'm not too concerned about on the offensive line.
Yeah, Pinner seems to be a center only out there, but with Kelly facing injuries, it's good to see that he at least held up well from that position. All right, let's move on to takeaways now. We'll start positive here. The Colts defense was tremendous. Season high, 4 sacks, 2 by Buckner, 1.5 by Ngakoue, the big money guys getting it done, and then a half sack by Dio Odangbo, the second-round pick as well. The Colts might need him, especially if Kwity Paye is going to miss extended time. 2 interceptions, doubled their interception total on the year. Both came with Denver in scoring territory. They also forced Russell Wilson's first fumble of the season, although Wilson was able to get the ball back. Currently, the Colts are allowing just 18.8 points per game. Mike, this defense is going to keep the Colts in a lot of games this year.
Yeah, now they've had their moments where they've not played well. They contributed to that 24-3 Tennessee lead, and the 24-0 against Jacksonville, where Trevor Lawrence did whatever he wanted. But in the other games, they've played well. They've kept things winnable, and this is with an offense that continues to put them in bad spots. But they're strong against the run, and I thought the rushing numbers were a bit skewed by Denver because they had those 4 plays for 40 yards. I mean, they all count. But by and large, they've played well, and you've got to be encouraged by this defense.
Absolutely. Another takeaway here. The Colts may have found their kicker. Again, McLaughlin, 4 for 4, 52 yards, 51 yards, 31-yarder to send it to overtime, and a 48-yarder in overtime to give the Colts the lead in the eventual win. Mike, if he keeps playing like this, they're going to have to give this man a contract after the season.
Yeah, they will. And keep in mind, what's funny is he's a good story because he's a local guy. Remember, after the Colts let him go a couple years ago, he and his wife, they now live in the Westfield area. So he's doing what he needs to do. Kicker, I guess I've gotten soured. Kickers sort of, they're a finicky bunch where they do stuff for you, then they just kick you in the rear end when you really need one. But this is, again, he's kind of pulled him out of this, and that's what you've got to have. You hope that this is a season-long success. The only thing that I keep coming back to is how poor he has been in his career from 40 to 49. And those are generally the field goals you make during the course of a game. But do you think that if Hot Rod had been here, they knocked down a 48, a 51, and a 52, even in Denver? Probably not.
No, I don't mean to pile on Hot Rod, but I don't think that win that game if he's the kicker, not McLaughlin. I get in the past his inconsistency from the 40s is concerning, and that's what he's going to have to prove this year if he is going to get another contract. But just having a kicker that has the ability to nail kicks from 50 plus, and I mean, according to the broadcast, it has a cool little thing like would have been good from whatever distance. Several of his kicks would have been good from 60 plus. I get it's different when you actually are kicking from 60 plus, but he's got plenty of leg. He had the range. They were all right down the middle. He needs to keep this up for sure. I mean, kickers can be streaky. Don't mean to jinx him here, but definitely encouraging seeing this kind of production from the kicker position, a position that has kind of haunted the Colts in recent years. Next takeaway here, final positive before we get into some ugly stuff. Alec Pierce looks legit, man. He led the team with 8 catches on 9 targets for 81 yards, made several high difficulty catches, and it's his second straight game with 80-plus receiving yards. Pierce is becoming a reliable weapon opposite Michael Pittman Jr., and that's going to be huge for this passing game.
Yeah, because we saw teams are still going to try to take away Pittman as much as they can. I think Pitt had 1 catch in the second half after halftime, but boy, on that drive at the end of the game, I think Pierce had 3 catches. Was it like 11, 17, and 5 or whatever? And we all kind of wondered how much of an impact a rookie would have right away. We sort of downplayed his impact, but he's excelled and exceeded what we expected. This after, remember the big drop in Houston, the touchdown.
Big drop in Houston, concussion kept him out week 2.
Right, right. So I think it's amazing. And I tell you talk to this kid, and he's the quietest, most low-key guy at that position, because that's sort of a diva position, sort of.
Got to have a lot of confidence.
Right, and it's easy to see that Matt Ryan has immediate confidence in the rookie.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, with so much attention going to Pittman, usually taking the other team's best cornerbacks, saw a lot of Patrick Surtain this week, and gets bracketed a lot. That's what happened against Tennessee. They put the safety over on Pittman's side of the field, so other people are going to have one-on-one opportunities and need to take advantage, and Pierce has been that guy so far. All right, Mac, let's get down in the dirt here. This offensive line has been a nightmare. The experiment with the reshuffled line failed mightily last night. Ryman clearly wasn't ready, penalized 3 times for holding, plus a false start. I saw a graphic during the broadcast that this is the most an offensive lineman has been penalized in one game this whole season. He also had a hard time just blocking the man in front of him, whether it was pass protection or run blocking. Now Kelly is hurt, forces Pinner back into action. They allowed 6 sacks. That's 21 on the season through 5 games, which is an average of more than 4 sacks per game. Ryan was hit 12 times last night. Mike, he won't make it through the season at this rate. What can be done?
That's a good question, and the Colts don't know either, or they would do it. Like I say, the fact that they made such a dramatic change on a short week with one walkthrough tells you that they know it's broken and they're trying to fix it on the fly. I don't know. The only, again, like I mentioned earlier, the only thing you can do is to put Smith back at right tackle and let Pryor work inside. Right now, Matt Pryor is a liability, whichever side he plays on. And I don't know if they have a lot of options. I don't know how they feel about Dennis Kelly. He would be the next option at one of the tackles, left tackle or not. But he's only played sparingly on special teams. So I just don't know. We said in the last couple of weeks on our podcast that when you go into the season in September, by and large, this is your team. You know, it's not like NFL stockpiles a bunch of good tackles and guards, and when teams need them, they go there. No, this is who you've got, and that's why you carry 9 or 10 linemen, and you carry a couple, 2 or 3 more on the practice squad. But I don't know what they do, because right now, when the coaching staff doesn't have confidence in the offensive line, because they're, you can keep in mind they benched Pender last week for Will Fries. I don't know, and at some point, maybe we're already there, the quarterback doesn't have faith, trust, whatever you want to call it, in the offensive line, and when that happens, you're in trouble, because then even when he does have a semi-clean pocket, he's expecting pressure. I don't know how you fix it, and they better get it fixed in a hurry, because, as we've said, Jacksonville, as good as Denver's pass rush was, Jacksonville's is better.
Yeah, it's looking rough out there. Pryor looked worse at right tackle than he did left tackle. I thought he was actually decent at left tackle the last couple of games. I mean, Ryan Kelly, there was no difference in Ryan Kelly being on the field or not. I think he's having a tough season. Hopefully he comes back from injury and is all right, but it's hard to figure out an answer. You know who is still out there, Mike? Eric Fisher. That's right. And I know we came away from last year talking about how Fisher wasn't great, at least in pass protection, but boy, he was good run blocking. Second year removed from the Achilles, knows the offense. Still a free agent out there, so we'll see how desperate. I mean, they've got to be pretty darn desperate at this point that the idea of bringing back Eric Fisher is not the craziest thing in the world.
Well, and for a team that talks about accountability, again, they cut their kicker for the miss in Houston. And how long can you stick with Matt Pryor? I don't know. It's obvious they don't like their other options. But you can't. I give him credit for trying to fix it by dramatic measures, but I just don't know what they do because I don't think they have good options in the building.
At a certain point, I mean, when does the offensive line coach, Chris Strasser, has got to be feeling some heat. I mean, this is a team with, all-pro left guard, a Pro Bowl center, and then a right tackle that you were paying $70 million plus, I think an average of about $18 million per year, and they're not playing up to, the level that we thought these guys were playing at. Like, there's questions with Pryor and questions with Pinter. Obviously, a rookie third-round pick in Ryman. It was hard to assume he would be ready right away. But when the whole offensive line is playing poorly, not just your weak spots, but the guys who you're paying a lot of money are losing one-on-one battles as well. At some point, it's got to turn back to the coach not getting his guys ready, not getting his guys on the same page, something of that nature.
And again, when you talk about accountability, that's part of that. Had they lost 9-6 or 12-9, would they maybe have made a move at position coach? I don't know, but there's not a lot of people on that team that should feel real good about where they are. Yeah, 2-2-1, and Frank said, once again, and he's right. They're right there. They're like a half a game out, however you want to figure it with the tie. They're like a half a game out of first. But it's not just, they're on pace for like 71 sacks, which will be a team record. The most they've given up, I think it's 56, whatever it is in a season. Remember when Jacoby Brissett got sacked 52 times that one year? So you just can't continue to put your quarterback. There was one play late, was it in the fourth quarter, where the pressure came in and Ryan hit his hand on a defender, and he's shaking his right wrist. Well, that's how that's what happened to Dak Prescott, where he was it ligaments and he had to have surgery, and he's missed a handful of games. So there's just too much can happen in a busy pocket when the quarterback really does. He can move around okay when you get some place to move, but he's seldom gonna get out of there and pick up a first down with his feet. They've got to get it fixed. I just don't know at this point how you do it.
Yeah, it's just baffling to me that they went through the entire offseason, all summer, training camp, preseason with this offensive line, felt good about it, not to make any really significant additions whatsoever. And then we get to the regular season, and it's clearly this has been the worst offensive line in football. Like, I dare anyone to show me an offensive line that has performed worse. And oh, by the way, they're being paid the most amount of money as a unit than any offensive line in the NFL. Last takeaway here, the offensive line has been atrocious. Matt Ryan has had his individual issues of his own. Through 2 interceptions, one killed a drive in scoring territory. The other gave Denver a short field and resulted in a field goal. He also had 2 more fumbles. The Colts were lucky to recover both. That's 7 interceptions on the year, 11 fumbles, 3 of them lost. And Matt Ryan has a 79.8 passer rating. That's the lowest of his career. He does have 5 touchdown passes, a 65% completion rate, and is averaging 275 passing yards per game. But that has not been enough to account for the turnovers, which really are just killers. I will give Ryan credit last night. He had his 44th career fourth quarter / overtime comeback. That's the 6th most in NFL history. And on those final 2 drives, the fourth quarter drive to send it to overtime and the drive in overtime to take the lead, Ryan was 9 of 11 for 85 yards. But between turnovers and offensive line play, this offense has struggled. 69 points are the club's fewest in the first 5 games since 1998. Peyton Manning's rookie year when they scored just 57 through the first 5 games. They failed to surpass 20 points in 7 consecutive games going back to the end of last season. Mike, do you think he'll find a way to take better care of the football, or is this just what we should expect for him for the rest of the year?
Well, I want to say he's going to find out a way to take better care of the ball, but it's 5 games, and at some point, this is who you are. And he had the early sacks or the early fumbles against Houston on center exchanges, shotgun and under center. But now he's losing the ball on sacks, and you just don't. You look across the league, and I know Trevor Lawrence had a bad game last week with 4 lost fumbles, but you don't normally see quarterbacks just littering the field with fumbles. So he's just, I guess maybe he's going to have to learn quickly that plays might be over sooner than what he wants, but he can't keep on this pace of turnovers because, again, all that does is compound matters for this offense and putting too much pressure on the defense.
And it's kind of what we talk about. We talk about how a left tackle, they could be great for 60 plays, but if on 2 of them they give up a sack, that could end the game. That's kind of, in my opinion, what Ryan has been for a lot of this. I thought overall, considering how poor the offensive line played, Matt Ryan played a really good game, except for those 2 bonehead interceptions. Of course, fumbling the ball when he takes a hit isn't great either, but it seemed like the majority of the game, I thought Matt Ryan played as well as you really can with that kind of protection. But then just those instances where he turns the ball over just completely negate so many things that he does well.
And when everything else is going bad, and almost everything is going bad on offense, they're not running the ball well. They ran the ball better last night. But whenever things are going bad on offense, it just magnifies how poor the quarterback's playing when he plays bad. And it's one thing to give up a sack, but then, they're losing like 10 yards. They had 6 sacks and they lost 51 yards. Not like, 18 yards, but they're losing major chunks of yardage. And Frank Reich talked again today about negative plays, and that's sacks, it's fumbles, it's penalties, it's all of this stuff. And the quarterback can't compound that by being careless with the football. And right now he's being careless with the football.
Yeah, one thing that I will say I noticed towards the end of the game, I saw a lot more Matt Ryan throwaways than I kind of had in the first half of the game and through much of the beginning of this season, really. It seems, and that's something that Matt Ryan just has to do. He has to realize, okay, I'm not going to get 4 seconds to throw the ball. I got 2.5 seconds, and if not, I need to know where I can throw the ball away and just throw it at somebody's feet, throw it out of bounds. These sacks are losing so many yards because he's keeps trying to spin out of the pocket, make something happen when that's really not his strong suit. And hopefully he can just learn to, it's not here. I'm not going to juke 3 defenders and, run through a sack on this play. I'm probably just going to fumble. So let me just throw the ball away. That's something I noticed more towards the end of last night's game. And that's something I hope Matt Ryan incorporates more moving forward. Mike, before we get to the AFC South, anything else you want to talk about from this game?
No, again, and fans don't want to hear it, but like Jim Irsay talked after the game, there are no ugly wins. And they are ugly, but you take them. It is a tough league to win in, and Frank Reich was asked about the offense's issues and 45 minutes of bad ball, and the question was very valid. And after the game, he just didn't want to hear about it. He didn't want to talk about it. He sort of said, we need to get better, but we're going to enjoy this while we can. But they've got to get this offensive line fixed. We're going to be talking about this for the next month. And hopefully for Matt Ryan's sake and the franchise's sake, they'll find a way to at least be competitive on the offensive line.
Yeah, it was such an ugly game last night that it's weird. So there's been 2 games that the Colts didn't lose, but they pretty much felt like losses. And that was the tie with Houston, and then this game where they didn't play well enough to win, or at least on offense, but they still came away with the W. it keeps them relevant in this season. I know I was texting with some of my buddies, all of us Colts fans, and a lot of people were like, you know what, let's start the tank. Let's lose this game. Let's start the tank. Let's get a quarterback in the draft next year. This team, that's the farthest thing from this team's mind right now. They're trying to grit out and grind out games. And I tell you, it's a big if. It's a huge if. But if they can find some way to block some people, this team can do something. I mean, they have a second weapon now, and Pierce. We know Pittman's good. We know what Taylor can do. The defense looks terrific. McLaughlin's knocking down kicks. Major if, because they haven't showed anything to suggest that this offensive line can be decent this year. But if somehow they can just bring that to somewhere near average level, even slightly below average would be a major improvement. This team might be able to pull off some more consistent wins. All right. Let's check in on the division race now in the AFC South. Colts currently in third place, 2-2-1. The Titans and Jaguars are above them with 2-2 records, and the Colts will play both of those teams over the next 2 weeks, so they really have a chance to take this division. It's right there for them. Texans still looking for their first win, and they'll have a chance to get their first win this Sunday against the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence and Brian Robinson and Travis Etienne and that pass rush there, you know. So we got Houston and Jacksonville, and then we have the Titans visiting the Commanders, who have lost 3 straight. So Colts Nation will be rooting for the Texans. They'll be rooting for Carson Wentz and the Washington Commanders to give the Jaguars and Titans a loss here so that the Colts can move on up in that division. Mike, you know, we'll talk about it more in the coming weeks as we preview these games, but huge opportunities for the Colts to really take the lead in this division, playing the Jaguars next week and the Titans the week after.
All you have to do is tighten it up and win. I mean, it's, you know, like Ryan said after the game, we just need wins. And as bad as they've played, you've got, like you said, you got Jacksonville at home next Sunday, a week from Sunday, and then you're in Tennessee. And then all's right with the world if you can find a way to get wins in those games.
That's right. So enjoy the win, Colts Nation, because don't know how many we're going to get this year. The Colts now have 10 days to rest up, try and get a little healthier, and gear up for Jacksonville. We will be back next week to preview that game. Dave Griffiths will join us for that one. That'll be on Thursday, so make sure to check us out then. Please subscribe and download for us. Follow us on Twitter at Colts Blue Zone. You can follow Mike individually on Twitter at mchappell51. You can follow me at Roto Street Joe. And this has been the Colts Blue Zone podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great weekend.